because I just pressed it and then I quickly like pressed it off. So it was just like for half a second the video took over like mid-sentence.
That's amazing.
Obviously, like, it really wouldn't have been that bad if I just kept talking, but obviously I was, like, in oh crap mode, because suddenly the video was blasting in my ear, and I was like, oh my god, what's happening?
Uh-oh.
So I stopped
I'm
talking.
in oh crap mode as well. Did the game start without me?
Oh, you're not in? Oh, is my screen still on?
Oh my god.
Can you still see my screen?
Check in a sec.
I thought I checked if you were in there, but apparently I didn't in there.
It's good, it's good.
We good? Okay, cool.
I got your screen.
Alright, well, in the bottom right side, you know, it wouldn't be the end of the day without something going a bit crazy. In the bottom right side, our Blue Protoss player is Astrea.
And in the top left-hand side, playing for Team Liquid, it is Kelazhur.
I just watched on the stream delay the video pop up for like 3 seconds. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was a moment. All right, Gateway Barracks. I've completely lost my StarCraft trail of thought after all that, cats. What were you thinking for Astrea, Kelazhur? Talk to me a bit about it.
It's a little bit of a 50-50. A lot of the time, you know, like when I'm good, when I'm like, keeping communications with the players, like today is one of those days where like a lot of the players are like very friendly, and so like I usually ask the one that I want to win how they're feeling to have some information, but I don't usually poke both players because then I feel bad being like, oh, good luck to both, you know, because then I feel like I'm being like, you know, deceitful. But with these two, I was very open. I told them, you know, I'm rooting for both of you equally, but how are you feeling? And yeah, Kelazhur seemed a little bit more confident than Astrea, to be honest. I mean, Aligulak thinks it's a 50-50 as of right now, which is kind of crazy given that Astrea has had the higher peaks. But Astrea pretty much in line. He was saying, I'm not even that confident in the 50-50, but it can definitely go either way. And Kelazhur also not feeling hyper confident, but he drank some green tea. So that's the secret.
Oh, well, that is the secret then, isn't it? No. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, Astrea's been kind of a bit of a question mark for me for a little while. I know I say this about a lot of players, but I just feel like this is almost the first time I'm really seeing Astrea again in a while, and I just don't know what he's really been up to. And then every time I do cast Astrea, everyone's like, oh, has he been playing Terran? And I'm like, what do you mean, is he playing Terran? They're like, he's been playing loads of Terran. I'm like, well,
it's true.
Apparently if he's been playing enough that everyone tells me he has, he must have been playing it a lot, which then makes me wonder as well. I did cast him the other day playing in Kung Fu Cup, and now I cannot... Well, I think it was Astrea versus Bjorn, and it was 1-2. He looked pretty good in those games. Thinking of that, to the point where I would probably say I favor Astrea, just based on that performance alone.
Yeah, I mean, Astrea is the type of player that he is so creative and so innovative that I think if he prepares, if his mind is in it, if he's having fun, then he is a threat. He is the type of player that will also grow against the greater opposition. But you know, if he's not feeling it, it doesn't look so good sometimes. It looks uninspired because he relies so much on inspiration, it feels like, to push him forward. So we'll have to see what today holds for him, as this Hellion and Reaper at least will get walled off in time. So Astrea buying a little bit of time with that last Stalker, ceasing to run to make room for the probe to actually get to the wall and take less damage. So good identifying there, but all in all, good traits for Kelazhur to start.
Yep, very solid stuff from Kelazhur, getting a couple pickoffs and just pushing this army back a little bit. I mean, when you look at what's being lost, the Adept and the Stalker really do add up as this one Reaper continues through. Obviously, you would have loved to just pick up as much information as possible too. In the end, you get fully walled out, but that can obviously cost Astrea a little bit of something as well. So don't mind it too much. Like the opening, we're back in more Blink, man. It feels like earlier we had all the Phoenix games in PvT, and now we're getting all the Blink games, cats.
Yeah. Seems pretty good to me. And while that Reaper doesn't get much of a scout, it does spot the probe at the third, right? And there shouldn't be a probe at the third unless you're planning on taking a third, or you're playing 3D mind games anticipating that the Reaper is going to poke at that point in time, which is just unlikely. So I think Kelazhur, if he reads into it enough, he should know that the third was about to be dropped. I'm not sure what he will do with that information. But first, of course, we have to see whether this mines can find anything, and it looks unlikely given the positioning of Astrea. But actually, okay. He does reposition.
He will get the
I love
burrow.
the camera work there with Icho.
Yeah, he will get the burrow on the 2 Widow Mines, and he gets himself 3 workers, so I think that's above average. You would say usually you're happy with a, probe per Widow Mine, so 3 is 3 is reasonable. The pro pull as well, of course. It's still oversaturated in the natural afterwards, so I would say that in general, we're pretty happy with that as Kelazhur. Double check on the units. Obviously, he sees the blinking stalkers. Pretty much was aware of that anyway, but always good to have triple confirmations, right? And now a couple stalkers coming across the map from Astrea. Away we go.
Yeah, that was a big evacuation of the mineral line indeed. So it's going to hurt Astrea a little bit. I loved what Kelazhur did, and I love the camera work there to catch it, where Kelazhur kind of pokes at the front before dropping the Widow Mines, and you caught also the reaction of Astrea kind of pulling forward with the stalkers, right? And then kind of getting out of position, but had the blink to reposition, luckily for him. So it all ends up working out okay, but not amazing for him. Supplies are still even, as the stalkers look to contain and potentially slow down any upcoming push and any upcoming expansion, as Astrea knows that he, for the time being, enjoys that benefit himself.
Auto turret in the back of the main, so get this Raven to deal a little bit of harassment damage. And I find 3 probes already, and all the probes have to pull away. This one! I thought it went back too soon, but it did not. It did stay alive. But still, 3 work is not a bad start. And Raven is straight back to action, Cats. And he's going to get 2 probes immediately. So 5 workers now. And a full pull again is obviously going to really start pushing income advantage over to Kelazhur. So, yeah, it was a very good moment. I mean, throughout this game now, multiple pings in favor of Kelazhur because of what he's been doing to these mineral lines.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant from Kelazhur, right? To do the 1-2 with the Raven, get out of vision, go back in right after. Most players, I think, might have been tempted to drop the second turret right away. But Kelazhur identifying that the pro pull was the response, that there aren't units there to take the turrets. If there are units, if there are stalkers in position, you drop both turrets because, you know, one of them is going to do a little bit more damage and your units are take time to take it down. But since the pro pull was the answer from Astrea, just kind of leveraging the time in between means A, more potential to kill more probes, and guaranteed more probe pool time, right, where Astrea is not going to be mining efficiently. So very reminiscent of the earlier trick that MaxPax did against a Rainer with just, you know, not using all of his disruptor shots at once. Just very high level players.
Well, drop. Yeah, honestly, it doesn't do much considering what I thought it might be able to do. Prism in the main base at the same time. Kelazhur will have to come and deal with this massive warp in from Astrea. He's going to double down in this main. Wants to get a whole chunk of SCVs, and Kelazhur is bringing everything back to deal with this. It's one of the power points of playing Protoss. You get that big warp into the main base, and Terrans have to take these attacks very seriously, otherwise things go very wrong. Get a little pickup on the mines into the medevac just to save them from the Zealots, and I'm actually just going to see these Zealots really going after some add-ons and stuff, and I don't know if I love that so much. The interference matrix, that was kind of weird too. Kind of came down very late. If it come down sooner, you maybe would have stopped the Zealots getting in, you would have got a bit more value, but yeah, this one didn't really do anything at all.
Yeah. All I could think about was making a PowerPoint about playing Protoss, Wardicio, and it would be like 3 slides. Would include charge in there for sure. And
Charge Prism.
And you're set. Charge Prism. Yeah, that's it. That's the recipe. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Astrea does a great job in stabilizing, where Kelazhur threw in some early jabs. It's going to be Astrea now answering back, and on the others, Kelazhur finally establishes his third, as Astrea drops his fourth, but it's not nearly completed yet. Will continue to harass with his Warp Prism, as finally there is an answer in the Viking. So this will come to a close. The Warp Prism is most likely dead unless it chooses to recall, and it hasn't yet.
Yeah,
oh,
Prism.
Maybe not. Can it escape?
It's got gap on that. Okay, never mind. Everything else is on the natural. Still, though, I mean, 14 SCVs is obviously pretty serious amounts of damage taken, and Kelazhur has taken a beating multiple times at this point on his economy. And yeah, he had some good moments himself earlier, but now his own kind of worker pulls and worker losses are definitely giving Astrea some advantages. So Astrea looking good there. About to hit into Storm as well, which we generally think is a pretty good moment for him in this game, and that means he'll also have High Templar drop a feedback on the Raven if that's necessary. And see how he goes. Astrea's going to jump on this. He does have the High Templar. Showed up. He masses a bunch of hallucinations. Drops the High Templar on top of the tank so they didn't get attacked straight away. And oh my god, what was this fight, Cats? This was wild.
It was bizarre. I mean, I love that Kelazhur had already the pre-sieged Widow Mines, and that made it very difficult for Astrea to account for those. But regardless of that, I think that the hallucinations ended up soaking a lot of that. And yeah, he will hold just fine. So jumps him. And Kelazhur still with an army lead, but like we were pointing out, it's the workers that is a little bit concerning for Kelazhur, because scaling later into the game and being down potentially 2 base if he's not quick to take a 4th soon is going to amount to more as the game progresses than you know, just having a bigger army right now. That you would have to capitalize on now, and Astrea is not letting him.
Force field, Bio getting caught up a little bit in the front. We are going to be seeing those Immortals just doing a pretty decent job of just chunking away at things, and Astrea is going to end up pushed back here. The Widow Mines, by the way, still out on the map. They may come back into play at some point. Guess who is back as well, though? It's the Prism looking to get back into action too, so that's potentially still a threat for Kelazhur as he does force Astrea away, and you know, as he's getting ghosts up, his army's going to look better than it ever has against this army of Astrea.
Yeah, a lot of medevacs as well. Definitely something that you want against this many storms, right? If your army is to sustain through the first few storms, if your Marines don't outright die and you have a good number of Marauders, then you can kind of stand your ground, which is really nice. Astrea setting up for a two-prong harass here with 4 Zealots already on the low ground and 4 more plus the potential of the Warping going into the main. Kelazhur will try to strike on the other side of the map, but it is much easier to warp in charge lots than it is to control your army of Marine Marauder.
Fuck, that seems like a bad bit of balance find right there, my goodness. We're going to see the Widow Mines.
Just fact.
Very easy to burrow those instead of just controlling the army
too. That is very true. Absolutely true. So they were in position and low effort mines. As far as actions are concerned, one of the better trades that Terran can make alongside like Liberators being sieged up and so, right? So definitely agree there. And they do a wonderful job. It's just good premonitions there from Kelazhur, showing his Brazilian half.
Yeah, very cool stuff. And I mean, Kelazhur still, I mean, they're both heading towards being maxed out here in this game. Number 1, obviously, as they hit that, we kind of see both players as well, just on good tech. I mean, Astrea started switching to Colossi. He only has 1 High Templar still on the map. I mean, I feel like you should always have a couple more High Templar on the map if you've got Storm available. Doesn't seem like a bad thing, but yeah, not many available right now, so just splash damage lacking. The 1 High Templar that exists doesn't have energy to storm either, Cats. It's gonna be dangerous,
yeah,
no?
great EMPs. Very much so. There's only 1 Colossus as well, so the AoE damage really lacking here from Astrea, and Kelazhur is gonna kite out most, if not all, of the Zealots. Now this army is rather flimsy. If he can get on top of the Colossus, and he does, it's gonna be even easier for Kelazhur, who, remember, has so many medevac that sustain is definitely here for this army. Astrea will warp in a few more sacrificial Zealots to be kited here from Kelazhur, but Kelazhur actually spreads himself rather thin with a few units going to the top. You want to bunch up this army so that you can kite it a little bit more easily and not get picked off by those Zealots. So Kelazhur forced to regroup. We have a great game in our hands.
That's just his reinforcements kind of arriving from the wrong direction. Yeah, great to get rid of the Colossus, keep that basically splash damage count low for a while. These Widow Mines actually do grab the Observer, so that's a nice bit of splash. The Storm is dodged as well from Kelazhur. Let's say it feels like he's playing pretty darn good right now. I mean, supplies stay very even. Again, lots from Astrea on the way. Disruptors, Colossi, Dark Shrine coming up too. A lot of access being made from him, as we do see the army of Kelazhur going out over to the right-hand side.
Definitely powering up. It's that green tea, I'm telling you. And there is more Zealots running into the natural, more behind them. Liberator's going to be preoccupied with the Warp Prism. Definitely not the job that they were hired to do, but they're going to be happy to do it. So, yeah, it's looking pretty good for Kelazhur at this point, as he picks off a Nexus if he can evacuate here safely. And I imagine that he will be able to. It is a fantastic minute or 2.
Yeah, no, really, really good. Doesn't take too much damage back at home. Very manageable amount of damage. And now he's got these medevacs that can also go toward the natural and kind of, you know, try and do some more damage. But then you might get cornered in as well. So that's also potentially a factor. Going to go all the way into the main, make Astrea walk as much as possible. The more Astrea walks, the further away Kelazhur essentially gets. There's a Forge and a Robobay here. These are pretty good targets if we get a chance to take them down. The Dark Shrine's also nearby, but not mind to see any of these getting dropped. You do have 3 Colossi now showing up, however. How long can Kelazhur stick around here for? Not too long. He's going to go hide in the corner, Cats. He's setting up other armies in the upper right, currently catching long-distance mining probes in the top right base. Wow. You're going to get a good bit of damage there.
Just wonderful multitasking and chaos creating here from Kelazhur, who will also prevent that warping, but without medevacs to evacuate here, that means that a lot of end up falling. The Zealots are going to take some Widowmine shots as well as Liberator shots, but not enough to die, so they will regenerate their shields, and Astrea should be pretty happy with that trade, especially having those medevacs pinned back at the back of his base. There's no recall available for the Terran.
Nope, there is not. So these medevacs just sort of sit there, and you know, it's a lot of medevacs. There's not too much army in it. Only 3 of those medevacs are full, right? So it's a lot of Astrea's army that's over here in comparison to how much it is of Kelazhur. Like I say, the most damning part is the fact that it is just a lot of his medevacs. But in terms of actual army supply, I think Astrea's maybe overreacting how much he's leaving there. And there's nothing to defend this base on the low ground, so that's going to be extremely costly in a few moments. I feel like that's an easy kill for Kelazhur, unless we have some kind of recall action, but I think it just came off cooldown, so now we are going to drop it down, and what's Kelazhur going to do? Not target anything, he's just going to back away.
Oh.
Yeah,
exactly. That's the recall from the main, and Kelazhur will recognize it because it's the units that were parked there, right? And I'm completely with you. I feel like if you're Astrea, the best possible move there was to account with this with pure stalkers, pretty much, not leaving any Colossus or maybe one just to deter the drop from happening. But now Kelazhur hitting from 2 sides at a time. The medevacs are gonna join with the reinforcements finally as Zealots come crashing from behind, but they're a little bit late to the party. Kelazhur will be able to get this Nexus. It's again an issue of if he will be able to evacuate, and if he can, Astrea's not even taking the fight. I mean, yeah, fantastic moves from the Brazilian American.
There's a freaking Void Ray over here, man. Like, I guess the Void Ray is being made to kill the medevacs in the corners. So Kelazhur really made the play to get out of those, out with those units just in time. Otherwise, he would have been losing them all for free. So, I mean, solid play for Kelazhur. The timing to save the day just about happening. And yeah, man, just continue to take some very fun trades and some very fun fights throughout this game still.
That is a very good point. I mean, if you're Astrea, maybe you should have given base just in exchange for killing all of the army at the back of your base. But yeah, I mean, maybe Kelazhur continues to push on forward or something, right? But knowing that the Void Ray was that close to completion, I can't help but to feel that it was a big bounty to grab. And maybe you could have just left the Stalkers, take the Colossus back to your maybe third, give up your base. I mean, you have plenty of bases anyway if you're Astrea. So yeah, I mean, Kelazhur making the best out of the situation regardless, really point with the timings on point, bailing his army out as soon as possible, as early as he can, and making things difficult and decisions difficult for Astrea.
He became way too focused on just... He was like, I've got the game in hand almost if I can just kill these units, so he just camped everything in position, and it just was not the case at all. Kelazhur now splitting his army. This is how the best Terrans have been doing it lately. I think Akua, who's been almost unbeatable in the TVP matchup, and he's just been splitting his army all over the place and controlling it well, and that feels like what Kelazhur is doing now as well. Big drop on the bottom, still pushing to the upper right-hand side. Astrea gets some extra warp-ins on this base, and that might be where Kelazhur has to turn around. But like I say, there's always something else happening, and this time it's the drop through the bottom in toward the main base. And, well, there's nothing in the main base right now, so a whole bunch of stuff that can be killed off. This should be big. I guess we can recall, though.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're Astrea, it doesn't feel like probably you needed to defend the main base so much, because Kelazhur has to make the quick identification that that's an open ground, whereas, you know, just a minute ago it was the scariest place that you could have ever been, and you just scouted a Void Ray as well. The recall is not good enough. Kelazhur has enough your own location. The warpins might be, but actually Kelazhur stopping a good bunch of those. So good trade for Kelazhur to get dislodged, and on the other side, like you said, splitting his army in two, making things near impossible for an Astrea that has now lost an additional 21 workers. Kelazhur looking to close this game out in style.
Yeah, these last couple of moments have really been killing blows. Everything else before Astrea was kind of able to kind of get back up from. This one, he's really kind of swaying as he stands back up. 122 supply only. DT's blinking around. This fight against these couple of Marauders was quite epic. Obviously, the DTs get out of detection range in the end, but also they had an EMP that faded off them. That was providing detection initially, as we do see our bio just coming in again, and Kelazhur just attacking in so many places. Really, throughout this entire game, it has been a case of just being super active all the time. Widowmines, just because the game's chaotic, being extremely effective, left behind here and there. And another base, about a 4 cats. Kelazhur has way too much for Astrea.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a beautiful style. I mean, you said Cure has been doing it. I think that this is kind of like a natural evolution of Terran play, in the sense that it is the type of style that is so difficult to master, because again, bio is so demanding as far as like the resources that you have to spend in terms of attention, in terms of just like kiting, right? Like just outright actions. And to do that on 2 different places is so incredibly difficult. So big props to Kelazhur. Obviously, the big upside is AoE is mitigated because you don't have your army all clumped up. Disruptor shots are always going to be worse. Colossus are always going to be worse. Your army can, on paper, get kited forever. GG, well played, gets called. Kelazhur will take game number 1. And yeah, what a game that was.
I agree, well played as well, because he just made this game chaos. And he dealt with a lot of, you know, Protoss nonsense at the start as well, right? In the sense of, he dealt with the Prism warping a ton of Zealots into his base multiple times over. He didn't let that deter him. He kept him, kept himself focused. He kept himself going, and in the end, he was able to knock himself into that position, Cats, where, yeah, he was just able to make it chaotic enough. And there was a real moment, I think, where Astrea just really lost out on building splash damage. There was just not enough of it in play. I really felt like High Templar never got built again. Like, we lost them one time, and after that, it was like, oh yeah, I'm done with Storm. It's like, why? They can be such a good support to get more Colossi out, and just in general anyways, and the fact he sat on one High Templar for such a long time was kind of baffling, to the point where I almost thought maybe I missed something, but yeah, it was definitely a weirder choice from Astrea, and yeah, I mean, allowed Kelazhur maybe to have a bit of a better time getting into some positions as well as we get ready for our game number 2 here in a second. Ancient Cistern for our second map.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Maybe he felt once the ghosts were out, maybe the Templar loses a little bit of potency, but if not High Templars, maybe a second Robo or somewhere AoE. All he had was 2 Colossus, right? So I'm completely with you. I think that the best option, if you can handle it, probably for High Templar, at least on a War Prism, just to protect them from the EMP. But otherwise, yeah, you need some more AoE if you're Astrea. Or maybe he felt like he didn't because of the style that Kelazhur was looking to play. I'm not really sure, but whatever it was, Kelazhur just kind of outplaying that game 1 and looking incredible.
Yep, no, absolutely. I think very impressed. Because, I mean, he also beat Scarlet in this event so far, right? If he continues like this into playoffs and keeps up that performance, I think he's going to have a very good finish, which you'd be very happy about. So, yeah, I'm excited to see him keep on doing it. Obviously not through the playoffs just yet, but kind of similar to the last series, where whoever loses here still is a pretty hefty favorite to make it anyway through round 4, maybe round 5 if it comes to that. So, yeah, I think that's a little factor to keep in mind. Obviously, much easier to just get it done tonight, though, Cats, and then you don't have to log in the next couple of days, apart from to, practice and stuff.
That would be really nice. And to pick up a win against Astrea as well puts you on everyone's radar, right? It really raises that reputation. And I mean, both of these players, 2 of my favorite people in the scene, really, because they are both so humble. And I don't use that word lightly because I kind of hate that word, but they are both very receptive, let's say, right? Like they're both always open to discussing things. They have a very low seemingly sense of ego where they're ever gonna pull like a card or make you feel like you don't have a right to discuss things with them, even if you're a considerably worse player. They take in ideas, they evaluate them, and they've made their rise in that, right, by saying I'm smart enough to know what's good and what's bad, to try things out, and we see it as developing as players, always developing their style and kind of their flavor, and they're both so good at it, and they're just both such sweethearts. I'm gonna be sad for whoever loses and wins this one, but I sure do hope for a game 3.
On the top right-hand side, with the current 1-0 lead, our Red Terran. He got every red during that last game. It's Kelazhur.
I'm playing for Alpha X. It is Astrea. Maximilian Pegasus. Max Angel, actually, his name.
I was like, that's what I haven't heard. Yo, low-ground pylon. Immediately when I see a low-ground pylon PvT, I immediately just think you want to get at least a little aggressive because your gateway's forward, so your first unit is going to get across the map more quickly. That's what comes to my mind, so we'll see if that's on the mind of Astrea as well. We'll see if that's kind of on his notice board of things to pay attention to here.
Yeah, should be consistent with what he wants to do. He usually is. Also, that provides him with a wall off against like Reaper Hellion Rambais and the likes. I guess it's Hellion Rambais predominantly. So maybe, looking to account for that in that way, and then opening up his game in other ways, or accounting for maybe something that would punish something like a wall off at the front, like maybe a tank push or something like that, right? So Astrea's always gonna have well thought out builds that are consistent with themselves, and yeah, I would think you're right that if he has this forward gateway, he's probably gonna look to use it.
Yeah, I would think so, as we get the Cybercore started, Nexus to follow. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a Zealot straight away. I guess, in a way, maybe I'm a bit surprised it's not a Zealot straight away, just for the fact that it is this forward gateway settled into, like, a Cybercore unit, but obviously you'll still get the Adept or Stalker or whatever you want to build here, usually the Adept, across the map that much sooner than you would otherwise, so We'll see how it goes. Kelazhur just going to take expansion, then the factory. We've seen a lot of Terran players going for the factory before expanding today. This being a bit of a bigger map means you don't usually need to be that little bit safer. And he's got the one game advantage as well to play around with in terms of safety as well. So, a couple things to just also think about.
Most definitely. As Kelazhur is going to respond potentially to just seeing that with the bunker. Going to chase the probe away now as Astrea confirms what's at the natural of Kelazhur. And there is that very quick adept that you were mentioning. I guess not directly perhaps, but implied, right? Like trying to make something happen with this forward gateway. And a Stargate as well to follow from Astrea.
Yep. See our adept getting to the front and bunker in position to push it back just that little bit at the very least. We have our Stargate, as you mentioned, and yeah, I mean, with the fast bunker, nothing really is going to happen here in the end. Yeah, in the end, I guess this didn't really do, really aim to do much from Astrea either. One adept across the map isn't exactly the most groundbreaking of things. As you all see this Hellion moving over. This is the only unit that Astrea produced, though, so if it's not at home, then there's nothing else to actually block the Hellion getting in. So it does start a retreat here, and now a super fast third base as well. So I think this is all building into just a very greedy opening here from Astrea. We'll see if Kelazhur can punish this. The fact he's on his way into some Hellions, that might be a great way to punish this if he gets like a Hellion drop going. Yes, a Phoenix can lift one or two of those Hellions up, but like there's still going to be some Hellions hitting mineral lines. It's going to be a very interesting few moments, cats. I'm not sure how these builds really line up. I would kind of favor Kelazhur, but the Phoenix maybe sway me a little bit for Astrea. Let's see.
That's just the thing between these two, right? Like they're so smart at their adaptations. They're both very flexible players. So it's like we were saying, Astrea is going to be consistent here and with his build. If he has a wall off, he can probably get away with a greed. So then he has to think about what punishes him. And the Hellion drop is what Kelazhur thinks would punish him, and rightfully so. That's why we don't know what's gonna happen, right? Is because both of them are doing the right things, and this Phoenix is right to be out on the map, already putting a lot of damage onto this medevac. So Kelazhur has to be very careful with the commitment onto the high ground if that's what the Hellions aim to do.
Yep, Hellions, they poke, and they're going to take the attention of the Phoenix over to the top side. Well, in some ways, I'm kind of sad if a Hellion goes down, because I feel like there's potential there. Now, the Phoenix find the medevac and the Marines, and obviously Kelazhur. You can get everything together at the same time. I think that might be the best case scenario here. Astrea does not have a battery, by the way, either, so also something to keep in mind. But Kelazhur, I think what part of the genius almost is that Kelazhur is like, oh, you seem prepared. You've seen me coming from a mile away. You're going to be absolutely fine. I actually think Astrea might not have been absolutely fine. I think he might have taken some damage, so Kelazhur kind of being played by Astrea's kind of belief that he's just going to be fine, and yeah, kind of a weird sequence of events as Hellions do get a few probes on the third base, though.
Yeah, it's so difficult to say, right? Because Astrea did so many good things to deter this push from happening. Like putting some damage onto the medevac, of course, is going to be one of those things. But also kind of just shadowing the Hellions, making sure that they're not loading onto the medevacs. Of course, if you're Kelazhur, you don't want to run towards the medevac with your Hellions when you're tailed by the Phoenix. So, and the medevac gets picked off as well from Astrea. But still no shield battery here. So this third under a lot of threat. Astrea has led Kelazhur into the promised land in a way.
Yeah, but these probes, they just transferred over here recently, so they are now all endangered. They weren't here when the Hellions were there a few moments ago. The Phoenix were all the way across the map too, so Kelazhur's getting a good amount of damage here. He will find himself a Stalker, going to catch himself another that was warping in, so couldn't get away in time. And I would say that Kelazhur's done very well here. He will chase these Stalkers a little bit further. The Phoenix count's still good. That's going to be important for Astrea, because that's the one thing Astrea can perhaps use here to maybe help himself get back into this game, because he will have some harassment off those Phoenix available. Right now, though, the Marine count is still apparently terrifying enough. We continue through. We try and target down the low HP Phoenix here. We get rid of one. We're going to get rid of another.
Wow.
And a few more probes. I think I'm very happy with what Kelazhur's achieved with this attack, man. This was a lot of damage done.
Yeah, extremely happy, right? Great identification there from Kelazhur. Again, extremely flexible in what he can do here. Pushing out with Marines without stim, without combat shields. Just looking for whatever damage he can grab, knowing that the commitment from Astrea that the answer to the Hellion drop is in Phoenix. Phoenix are never going to trade well against Marines, so Astrea has to wait until he has a relevant amount, and Kelazhur knows that there's not going to be any AoE around. So if the Phoenix investment is that high, there's potential for damage. The one thing that I think Astrea could have done considerably better is the shield batteries, both at the natural and at the third. If you have those, you take way less damage.
Yeah, I mean, that's just wild to me that throughout all of this, even coming out the other end, cats, we still haven't seen a battery. Like, at what point does Astrea not think, man, this is a lot of pressure. Maybe I should build a battery to help me at some stage, you know? Incredible belief in just, again, his situation in the game and that he was just going to be fine anyway. And I think, obviously, a bit misplaced because he wasn't exactly fine. But, well, he's alive, and Phoenix are cruising around looking to see what they can pick up. Phoenix going to move into charge and just more gateway units here in general. That's one thing that Astrea is definitely slow on. The follow-up tech off these Phoenix, it's very limited. Like, charge is nice, but it's very late charge. And he's getting the Robo Bay as well, but that's also very late in comparison. So, yeah, that's definitely all things to note here.
Yeah, 5 gateways now on the way for Astrea. Kelazhur rising in supply, but still a little bit behind in workers. Mules should mitigate for most of that at Astrea as Astrea gets set up to take a 4th. Kelazhur looking to make a bunker, which is a very sensible choice as well. Kind of like a blind read into what Astrea could do. And yeah, I mean, charge slots would be very dangerous, so good call to finish that bunker, but Astrea is looking for it to be finished. So will poke in one more time and grant himself another SCV kill as Kelazhur loads up his first drop.
Yes, he does. 2 medevacs down the right-hand side. The Phoenix are heading that way right now. Depends what exact direction Kelazhur takes. He cuts across. He might just fly directly into these Phoenix, so be a little bit unfortunate, although he could, if he's fast enough, unload and maybe get a Phoenix kill or 2, or at least deter them. With the boost, he is going to be okay, so just nice for Astrea to catch and just stop this from getting into position more than anything else. Kelazhur will have to back it up, and he is going to opt to go for some ghosts, and he actually gets the scan down too, so information gathered. Boom, now you know that this is a Colossus. That's very good information to have.
Yeah, a lot of charge slots as well, so he's going to want to continue to produce those Widow Mines that he is already making. And now with the Ghost Academy, like you were pointing out, nearly done, I think your timing, if you're Kelazhur, is going to involve Ghosts next. So gotta be really careful with these units on the side as well, because if Astrea repositions his army with the Phoenix, they can get chased down and die. So I'm a little bit surprised that he's trying to make something happen, but if he can take advantage of that, Astrea already accounting for it with pylons as well, right? So Astrea says, okay, I'm gonna move my army there, but I'm gonna have spotters on the other side so that I'm ready to recall or reposition if I need to. So Kelazhur will only get 2 pylons for his troubles, and on the other side, the medevacs were shoved back, but not killed at least.
Gonna load these 2 medevacs up again, just ready to be everywhere. That's what Kelazhur excelled in the last game. I mean, Astrea is just on 4 bases, this massive army waiting on the south for these medevacs, and if they try and, you know, go around the bottom, there's a pylon there. He needs to boost ASAP to get past, because the Stalkers don't actually have blink. Kelazhur, he turns them the wrong direction. He's not paying attention, though. That's 2 very dead medevacs, and they're going to do nothing at all, and that's a very quick way to lose a lot of momentum, because all of a sudden now, well, I mean, Kelazhur's plan is very obvious, and Astrea is just going to be able to position very nicely with a lot of units in every place he needs them. Just, yeah, so much wind out your sails, just 1 failed medevac drop, and it wasn't just failed, it was like a heavy blunder.
It's a heavy blunder, but difficult to blame him because he had shift queued them to a position that where they're, you know, on paper, I would imagine there shouldn't be any units there. Astrea was looking to secure that base and happened to have his entire army to back it up. Whether it is because he was anticipating that Kelazhur would fly in that area again, or just by sheer luck, but I mean, Kelazhur unloads in the worst possible location, and he had prior to unloading no reasons to suspect that there should be an army there at all. So difficult to blame him, but yeah, not reacting quick enough for sure. And Astrea does get to stabilize as a result, gets to enjoy a potential economic lead, and I think Kelazhur is also doing the sensible thing here in dropping another CC, but not really stepping off the gas.
Yeah, he just realized that he had an opportunity to kill this base. Oh my goodness, he's going to dive forward with these units, but now there's a super battery on the base. He is just going to get the kill, but that cost him a lot of units. That wasn't ideal in the end. Looks like an Immortal went down on the tail end of this as well, but that was very expensive for Kelazhur. I liked it when he was just going to kill it and get out, and then he had to send that group of units in and basically sacrifice them to finish it off, and that's why I get a little bit questionable about whether that was okay or not. I guess we'll find out. If he can survive right now, then he should, you know, then okay, then great. Surviving right now might be the difficult part. Let's see, as he is going to have to deal with this Protoss army now moving around the right-hand side. He just deflected Zealots off the left. And so far, Astrea has also been really good at just shutting down Widow Mines and making sure they've not been, you know, able to fire on much, if they're able to fire at all.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough and difficult decision for Kelazhur. Not so difficult this one for Astrea. He's going to pick off the CC for free. Kelazhur is actually going to stem on forward and try to take this fight, but he's attacking into the Protoss that's already, like, I want to say siege. There's Colossus, but oh my god, the mines could be massive, and they actually connect onto a lot of the army of Astrea, and Kelazhur his evaluation is very right that will be able to punish the death of his CC. Much needed. If that army from Astrea evacuates, you're all of a sudden looking at a 5-base Protoss against a 3-base Terran. Not where you want to be. But now Kelazhur, with a little bit of wind in his sails, to try to cross the map and make something else happen, or even just re-establish his economy.
Yeah, and I like that. He scans that base on the left, and Astrea sets up everything on that side. And yeah, that G is going to go down to the bottom instead and just try and grab this base instead. He'll get the cannon, get the battery, but he's not going to stick around too long. It's a very smart play. There's a couple of mines on the left that could maybe make a move forward as well, by the way. It could be kind of neat if they just kind of walk into the mineral line while there's a lot of other things going on. Could net himself a whole bunch of worker kills, which we would not say no to right now. And that was an awesome fight from Kelazhur. I sort of thought halfway through he might back away from it because of the force fields, but I was like, no, go, 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 because you kind of got through the Zealots. Now he's getting wrapped around, though, with Zealots on the high ground as well, making this a little bit awkward. Kelazhur's trying to fight his way out, trying to micro two different portions of an army, and, well, he is going to get a few more Zealots at the end, and Kelazhur's supply just keeps on growing, cats. He doesn't know how to lose fights, does he?
Yeah, not really. I mean, great positioning. They're very awkward for Astrea to take that fight. Of course, if it was a flat surface area, then very easy for Astrea to push the gas pedal. He had more army available, but the fact that he has to turn 2 different corners to get to the army of Kelazhur makes it very costly before he can engage at all against this small pocket of ranged units. So Astrea chooses to disengage, and that means Kelazhur takes another good engagement and now is ready to continue to try to deny bases here on the fringe sides of Astrea.
Yeah, coming around the left, he's got a good amount of Vikings against a single Colossus up. There are 2 more Colossi building, but if you can kill off 1 before the other 2 are around, then I'm a very big fan of that. A little Disruptor Shot being used to clean out a mine, but I feel like you need a Disruptor Shot to go a bit more towards the bio right now. Kelazhur turns back, but then he gets away, so he does dodge away from everything. This Nexus is absolutely going to go down. There's a big counterattack on the other side of the map of Zealots, and that's one thing Kelazhur does not currently have a good answer to. He's pulling SCVs a little late to get to that bunker to repair, and, well, now it may be putting a little bit more pressure on him to do something on this other side, but he's starting to stabilize, man. He's going to take a few more SCV losses, but he's starting to get the units to shut it down as well, and he's still just killing probes as they're long-distance mining back into this position. Gotta be careful of the Disruptor, which actually turns away because of all the Zealots, so protecting the Zealots there. The Vikings are going to make the dive on the Colossi, and they will get both of them, and we evacuate the Medivacs. Maybe a lot of Vikings go down, but like if Kelazhur, you get rid of all the splash damage, or a lot of the splash damage in the form of Colossi. We're going to build 3 more cats. Triple Robo in action.
Wow. Yeah, bad pathing on the back end of that for Kelazhur to retreat his Vikings, right? They fly right over the army diagonally, so maybe he could have kept a couple more alive, but all in all, they did their job. They got rid of the Colossus and the brunt of the army for Kelazhur that did evacuate. So things continue to look good for him. He continues to pick off bases. Hasn't really taken the opportunity to re-establish or establish a 5th at all, however. So that is a little bit concerning for Kelazhur, who is lagging in workers and doesn't really have that much real estate to work with. But the engagements have been wonderful.
Oh yeah, they have been very, very good as we work our way down toward the bottom side. There's a single Zealot that runs in towards the planetary on the top as well. That's going to get taken down pretty quickly, and Kelazhur taking a turn to the south as we're just going to come in. There's a lot of units here, but Kelazhur brave enough to start fighting. He does have 3-3 to 2-2, by the way. Upgrades on this kind of scrappy game are absolutely going to be pretty notable, and I think they have had some effect.
Yeah, most definitely. I didn't see the Observer there. It seemed like he was blinking onto the mine, but not going to happen this time around. A lot of these Medivacs are pretty bruised from Kelazhur. He has to be wary of his own Widow Mines at this point, as he tries to continue to spread Astrea thin. But this time around, I mean, we talked about it. Astrea, last time around, he AoE. This time he has it in plenty, right? Like 3 Robo production, like you pointed out, and now adding a Templar Archives as well. Good EMPs, however, from Kelazhur, gonna allow him to posture forward. And yeah, I mean, if no Disruptor shots are landing, the DPS from Astrea is so low that this many Medivacs will just destroy his army. But it's all about these Disruptors and this AoE.
Yeah, it's a tough call for Kelazhur moving on to that base, because if a super battery pops and you misjudge it, oh no, that's 2 dead Colossi. That's a horrible recall. I mean,
jeez, that was
like, it's almost just worth fighting there, because the units you kept alive are almost worthless, right? I mean, yeah, that was just rough. I guess he didn't expect the sudden firepower of Kelazhur, who is maxed out and now moving across the map with Liberator support 2 cats. I don't know if Astrea is really set up to deal with Libs. Like, yes, you've got a crap ton of Stalkers, but Stalkers are not really the go-to against Libs. Yeah, they're going to get rid of these first two here. They would end up quite far forward, but the splash damage isn't here right now. Finally, the Disruptors are about to arrive. Kelazhur will have to step away, and Astrea has to use these shots very sparingly to make sure he does always have a Disruptor shot ready to push Kelazhur back. This one comes from a bit further away. Yeah, now he's got none left, so Kelazhur gets the base.
Yeah, surprisingly, Kelazhur is not really using EMP to kind of like mitigate for a lot of the shields on the Nexus and just be able to take it faster because he's working with very narrow window. Earlier when he poked at this base, there was like a cannon, a shield battery, and a Nexus, and he had enough EMP on the Ghost. I feel like that could have made the difference in picking that base off as well back then. But he does get the base this time around, will kite the Zealots, still has a very good number of medevacs, and Astrea scrambling to try to make something happen as he now goes down extra base. He has just completed the one on the right-hand side corner, so he's not going to be lacking real estate. But one more of those bases gets taken down, and he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yep. Absolutely, as our army of Astrea going to come over the right-hand side, and we do have ourselves the Kelazhur Command Center lifting off and just going to go to another base yet again. Man, there's now a lot of Disruptors, but if Kelazhur can get a jump on these Disruptors, that's going to be scary. It's going to be the other way around. Lift! You've got medevacs!
Yeah.
Oh my god, he EMPs them because now he's going to die. Okay.
I mean, yeah, I was with you until Kelazhur outdid us both with those EMPs and the army showing up, right? Yeah, it definitely seemed like, oh my god, pick up. You can't split those Ghosts. They don't have stim. But Kelazhur decides to stay on the ground because he knows that the rest of his army is coming back from the flank and that he could punish those Disruptors. So beautiful move with those for him, and now looks to this base yet again. If he just moves bottom right after this, very difficult game to imagine Astrea coming back from. A lot of probes there, but Kelazhur just doesn't know about that base.
I mean, he just sees the chance to kill, though, as well, right? There's one Colossus here. That is not a lot of damage. Yeah. He's going to kill the Colossus quickly. The Zealots flank around. I mean, they're very late to the party. They really did not get the memo that started at 8. And, yeah, they come in a little bit too frantically, I would say. I mean, definitely helping. This Disruptor shot is actually just going to get a bunch of those Zealots. That's what you get if you turn up late, guys. As Disruptor shot here is going to finally get some bio, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that that Kelazhur did smell blood in the water, and that was not bad trades by any means. So it ends up working out. I still think if he finds that base in the bottom right-hand side, it is just more or less game ending. But I mean, he thinks that the base progression is as Astrea has made him to believe it is, right? Like constantly trying to take this base, and you would think that until that base is established, you wouldn't have taken the bottom right. So Kelazhur has no reason to suspect that it's there, but it's really what's keeping Astrea in the game right now. However, this base is equally important, and Kelazhur will find it exposed.
Yeah, Kelazhur is going to lose a base of his down at the bottom side. He's going to go diving in on the first Disruptor shot there, and then he will get blown up the rest of the way. He nearly gets all of the Disruptors, mind you, and again, resetting the Disruptor count throughout this game has helped him massively. He's killed 10, he's killed 9 Colossi as well, so that's been big. And this army on the left side not being contested, we're entering a bit of a base trade, but if we enter a base trade, Kelazhur has a lot more supply to base trade with from the very get-go, and I would say he also has a lot more real estate. The only real downside is he doesn't know about the bottom right-hand corner, as he is going to start backing it up now, and looks like we might just reset on the bases that are still alive.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where StarCraft being such a hectic game comes into play. I'm sure if you pause the game right now, give the players a little bit to breathe, you evaluate the game as Kelazhur, and you think, how do I lose this game? And the answer is go scout the corners of the map, because if he doesn't have those, you've already won. If he has them, then that's your next target.
Liberators are set up to harass bases that don't even have mineral lines anymore. Don't know about that move, as we do have Kelazhur still massively had an army supply. But one thing Astrea has right now is probe count. Unfortunately, he doesn't really have an income lead because the probes currently have to long distance mine, but that could be a factor later. But yeah, these Stalkers are really taking the most awkward way to the bottom side of the map. They started in the top right, and they went all the way down the left, and now through the bottom. Finally going to set up on this long distance mining base to cause a bit of a distraction. Kelazhur, like you say, Cats, if he finds that bottom right base, this really is game. That is the one lifeline, the one bit of economy that Astrea could perhaps lean on to get back into this. Let's see if he checks what he has. He's going to be nearby. Good Disruptor flank from the top side from Astrea. Massive catch there. And that is going to be big to help even out these numbers. Suddenly it's only a 20 army supply difference. And Kelazhur, well, he is going to find this base because Astrea is not in position. But still, that bottom right, man. Just got to find it.
Really gotta find it. I mean, props to Astrea because his style accounts for losing bases, it almost feels like. He makes more than he needs at many points in the game, but this time around he's gonna be lacking that. Okay, Kelazhur, you've just cleared every base. Use a scan, send your army, send one unit. Do something to scout that base, because, yeah, that would be it. But Astrea now identifies, okay, this is too sketch. Like, how have I been building units? You have to suspect this base. So now get some warpins there. And actually, these warpins could give him away as well, because coming from the bottom, and Kelazhur has to wonder why there is a pylon down there, surely. Still, good kiting here. The Ghosts are trying to do what they can with the EMPs. One Disruptor. Now the Disruptor shots are back online and available. Lots of medevacs are going to make the kiting good for Kelazhur as his reinforcements arrive. And Astrea finds a dead end with those rocks on that side. So Kelazhur will be able to evacuate. And the game, as far as supply is concerned, dead even. But Wardicho, what do you think? I'm not even sure. No.
I think Kelazhur has to wonder where these units are coming from, not just where they warped in. As a good catch, he's going to get the disruptors here. But why is there so many of them? How can he possibly be mining this much when you're killing all the bases? Like, there's one place you've not seen on this map. It's in the bottom right, maybe the top left as well. But you've got to know, you've got to realize that these units shouldn't keep on coming. And yet we are, and I get it, like, you've killed a lot of bases. It feels like you can't possibly have expanded everywhere. But he actually did! Like, he took everywhere he possibly could. And you've just missed one. Yeah. I think Kelazhur's got to start noticing, because this just doesn't make sense how the Protoss is still alive otherwise. Like, he is cranking out units. There's so many at any point in time. It's getting ridiculous, I think. You've got to pick up on it at some stage. Unless you just win the game.
Yeah, I mean, that is one way to do it as well. Kelazhur is in a position where he could very well win the fight and the game. It's just the hard path to it, right? He's doing it on brutal instead of on easy mode. And let's see if he can. I mean, he is at the natural now, looking after the jugular of Astrea here. But if he just realized what we have realized, right? Then we'd be perfect for each other and we'd never find another. Kelazhur will go and fly to his own corner. I mean, that should be even more incentive to think about the corners.
Yeah, you know what the funny thing is? Astrea's taking this base on the bottom right too, the one above the corner, and it's like, if Kelazhur finds that, what if he's just like, that's where it is, and he doesn't still realize? And I only say it because I feel as though it could actually happen. This robo will go down just before the disruptor pops out. How many robos have we got left? Just the one now, a bit further to the right of this location. Kelazhur obviously playing very well around this position, definitely realizing that he kind of needs to do something here. More Zealots hitting the top left, as obviously Astrea wants to shut down Kelazhur's economy and hope that he can finally cut off the final bit of life that Kelazhur has got, because Kelazhur's economy and STV count is not the best, and he's going to see all these Zealots topside. He will have to go run into a planetary fortress.
Yeah, you gotta wonder where they're coming from, like you said. Yeah. Where does he have the money? How does he do it?
Yeah, while I was looking at those Zealots, some disruptor shots went off bottom side. It seems like, looks like we traded out disruptors and bio, and it was just a bit of a mess. Zealots, again, just showing up. Kelazhur going to go kiting away. He had 25 minutes on Ancient Sister. Now, Bioforce should be able to get these Zealots, which at this stage, any unit you're killing off like this is generally going to be a very good thing. You know, the economies are low, even if Kelazhur hasn't quite figured out where the money is coming from. I think Kelazhur now's got to realize he's got to go right side or do something, because actually these bases of Astrea are getting back online. He's not done much for a while to really stop bases coming online, and that could change everything here. In Astrea getting Templar Archives up too. There's not a lot of ghosts, so a couple of Archons could actually go a long way compared to usual.
Yeah, I love the map for Kelazhur as well defensively, right? He's looking for those Salad Rambis onto his main base and production with Widow Mines scattered all across. But yeah, I mean, here's also the good news. Wardicho is Kelazhur almost doesn't need to scout that base anymore, right? It's almost gone.
Yeah, so, it's been so long.
It's been so long.
Disruptor shot fires, doesn't quite connect. That's the only disruptor in the army. There's a couple more that popped out somewhere. He's going to kill this base and be like, finally, he will not have mining. But now the far right is up, and he doesn't know about the far right base either, the one above the corner, so he really needs to like accidentally walk there. He finally sends a Marauder Cat! He's going to realize this base is like mined out. He's going to be like, oh my god, you're kidding me. Yeah, that's kind of where a lot of things have been happening, Kelazhur. That is why this game is where it is at. And
yeah,
please don't tell me this is going to turn into he doesn't find the base above it, by the way. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to go and kill that base now, but that base is now bait, right? It's bait for the other base to survive. Wow!
Save the planetary.
I can't believe he's done this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. Now just path back home. Just be like, okay, that was really good. I'm just going to go back now that I've killed those two bases. Astrea trying to keep him at bay, because if he doesn't, base dies.
I can't, yeah, I know. Kelazhur has no idea how close he is to finding the final base. And it really is this time the final base. Astrea is not building a base anywhere else. He is absolutely strapped for cash. He's got a bit of money in the bank. He's long distance mining the far left side. Kelazhur is going to eat a disruptor shot here. He still maintains a good bit of army supply. He could have probably had a disruptor there, but he didn't realize it until too late. Stimming again, his army getting low on HP. I guess that doesn't matter if you're always kiting away and never taking the shots.
And Astrea is so daring, not because he wants to engage, but because he's forced to engage. Because if Kelazhur retreats, Astrea loses the game because he runs into this base. So Astrea's like, no, come here. I'm going to blink onto you. Aggressive. But now Kelazhur finds the base finally. And this means Astrea has to take this last engagement. Astrea has to attack into the bio of Kelazhur. And every second that goes by, Kelazhur is going to be racking up probe kills. And the Nexus is going to be taking damage. So the urgency for this engagement is on Astrea, not something that you want when you're working with disruptors. Astrea is now broke, cannot afford a Nexus, and this is his last army. So as long as Kelazhur holds on, you know, just retreat right now is what I would do. Yeah, exactly. If that disruptor shot lands, Astrea moves across the map and there's a chance. Whereas if Kelazhur just disengages, this game is over.
Now he scans the upper left. He's like, oh my god.
Now he scans.
You've had so many bases. Do you have this one again? He's like, wait, you don't have that one? He's like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. So this is a type of thought that he should have had earlier, right? It's like, okay, how do I lose? And exactly what he did is what he should have done then. So Astrea is going to continue to push on and look for an engagement, try to cut off the production or the economy of Kelazhur. This is a good move from Astrea, but he's really restricted and limited in options. So while this is the best move that he has available, no move is really a great one for him outside of outright destroying the army of Kelazhur and having enough left over to push on and kill him. Or killing 2 more bases also.
Kelazhur is going to kind of keep on running through, and I guess to some extent is somewhat happy to base trade. What units does Kelazhur have back at home? He's actually stimming a few units in to try and protect. I mean, if you're going to do anything right now, I think just rally units up in your main base. If that's where this game is going, just make it as difficult as possible for Astrea to trade, because Kelazhur has more stuff, but the more, the more you can kill the Protoss before you have to take the big fight, but, even if you're just losing reinforcements, is going to go for a long way. Astrea pulls probes. He does have enough money for a Nexus. Now, it looks like Kelazhur is realizing that is happening. He's not going to bother chasing into the main. He is, in fact, going to come fight this army. Astrea can, of course, at this stage, if he needs to, recall to the 2 remaining Nexus to get out. As Kelazhur looks as though he maybe just believes he truly has enough to surround, fight, and take out this game.
Yeah, he doesn't have to, and I wouldn't, but even when you have enough units gathered in your main and they're not at a risk of dying, it's okay to take him out. I'm completely with you. If the army of Astrea is threatening, just buy yourself as much time and just tuck into the main. But now that you have the time to fan out, just do that, but continue to reinforce. Do not engage until Astrea looks for it himself.
Links forward there. Obviously, Astrea is cornered outside of the potential, like I mentioned, recall to those other bases. Kelazhur drops a stim, which is obviously some healing from the medevac. Going to be used up. Trying to find some shots from afar. He nearly gets a Stalker. Astrea really is cornered. The problem is, if you recall at a bad time, you're going to lose a bunch of units for free, right? So you have to be absolutely sure about the recall timing and that you have enough time to recall without losing a significant amount, just because that could be the difference in you winning or losing this game. Kelazhur's been looking for the EMPs. Oh my god, he kills the Disruptor! Talk about cutting it close, but he's got it. He has killed everything here. He is going to get GG. What a game.
What an incredible game. I mean, that last engagement, I don't know if take it. I think keeping tabs on the army, but if you're that confident, right, play this game long enough that you know